Hey, Ed here. Welcome to Ed Talks. Another exciting episode because I think you're going to find Dan Chavez quite fascinating if you don't know him already. So it's going to be a lot of fun, Dan. Thank you for being on Ed Talks.
Thanks, Ed. Good to be here.
And before we start, I just want to thank everyone who's watching because you have a lot of choices and how you spend your time, and you've decided to spend a few minutes with us, and we're very appreciative of that. So thank you. All right, yeah, let's jump in. And it's funny, Dan, because you and we know all the same people. I mean, all the same people, and we've been around for a little while, but we never met. And it's just so fascinating, that we've always been so close, but never had the opportunity to meet. So so it's kind of cool that we get to meet now and trade these different stories. And the question I want to start off with is, what's been your best customer experience this past year? It doesn't have to be healthcare, it could be in any particular industry, but just curious about your recent customer experience.
Such a great question. I got a couple. It's hard to pick one, and I'm actually proud of that fact. One at sort of the global level, where we have worked really hard with Santa Cruz County Public Health Agency to get them completely independent from the state in preparation for the next pandemic. And we put that information on the Health Information Exchange, and that's really cool. And then it also accounts for bidirectional connectivity with the state, so we can stay in sync with Sacramento. That's one. And at a little more focused level, we've enabled a WIC, Women, Infants, and Children workflow on the HIE. And it's just so gratifying to make a difference in lives that you can see, touch, feel, and count. It's an unusual workflow. It's multivariant. It's not point to point. It counts for a lot of different inputs. And what's interesting, Ed, I know you'll appreciate this, it's governed by the USDA and not HIPAA. So it was new, different, and creative, and we're making a difference. We've received national recognition on this, and I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. I love the work, and we are going to jump into the HIE space. I had the privilege of serving in Texas, sort of on this oversight board that they still have today, and know a little bit about what you do. But what you've done there in California is remarkable and really advanced. And I can't wait to dive a little bit more into it. But one last personal question, Dan. Is there something that when you were growing up, your parents sort of forced you to do and you're like eye roll, like, oh my gosh, but now you look back and you're like, I'm glad they made me do that?
That's such a great question. I miss my parents a lot. I don't know about you, but I really miss them. And it goes to sort of kind of this contemporary identity-based culture we're in. So if you had asked me, said a different way, how do you identify, Dan? And this is a direct influence of my parents, right?
Yeah.
I identify as an American of Mexican descent, as a Boy Scout, and as an altar boy. And I kind of think that's who I am.
Yeah.
And I make no apologies, and I really have to give my parents credit for that.
Yeah. That's cool. You and I are very similar backgrounds, but if you substitute the Mexican for German, um, we have not only a lot of people in common, but I think our backgrounds are quite maybe similar as well. Tell us, therefore, a little bit about your journey, about personal and professional, all the way to where you are today.
Wow, that could take a long time, as you and I are the same vintage and the like. So, yeah, I started my career, we'll do it that's maybe easier to do. Started my career selling IBM mainframes to Kaiser Permanente in Southern California. And what a great learning ground, right? Doctors, hospitals, insurance, all underneath technology, business, all underneath the same umbrella. And it was a phenomenal experience. And that set the hook for me with healthcare and health information technology, and I've never left. It was clear then, and this is in the early 80s, that healthcare needs lots of help.
Yeah.
Key to that help will be information and data and automation and furthering workflows. And ever since then, I've just been furthering those efforts. I've done a lot of great, unique things in my career with several different companies. We can debate whether I can hold a job or not, but it's quite the portfolio of experience and contribution. I used to run the largest dialysis electronic health record in the country in Renal Star. I put the first GUI on mumps at SAIC, and we sold that to InterSystems for a song, for a song. I helped John Glasser at Brigham Women's Hospital move off his 15 Data General mini computers to 96 PCs for his EHR there at the Brigham. I helped introduce interface agents to both the Department of Defense and VA while I was at SAIC. I was the Y2K lead for both Kaiser and Catholic Healthcare West in 1999, which is sort of a strange claim to fame, right? I ran the largest EDIS in MSTAT before Best of Breed and Epic and Cerner took over that whole application set. One of the things I'm most proud of is I connected every provider with every health plan in the state of Florida when I worked with Julie Clapstein starting Availity. You know, arguably one of the largest HIS implementations ever in the state and not in the country when we did that as starting Availity. I ran the largest virtual reality surgical simulation firm on the planet, got to travel all over the world and see academic medical centers all over the world when I was running Immersion Medical. So started the HIE in San Diego, and now I'm here in Santa Cruz running what was the Santa Cruz HIE. We call it Serving Communities Health Information Organization.
Very cool. Yeah, that's that's an amazing career. And you left out the part that, you know, at least when you were with, I think it was SAIC, that you helped fund Chime, right? At the beginning of Chime.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I know it's going to be hard to limit it to one, but if you had to say, and maybe it was the Kaiser role I think that you started off with, but what's the one role that has been the most informative for you and helped create you as the leader you are today?
It's such a great question. Either Availity, starting Availity in 2001 with Julie, where it was our express goal to automate administrative EDI transactions in the state of Florida. It was a joint venture between Blue Cross Blue Shield of Florida and Humana to make that happen. I was new to the health plan space, separate apart from my Kaiser experience. So I learned a lot there. And then I would say starting the HIE in San Diego. So I think it's just really, you know, what really excites me, gets me up every day to do my job is this sort of multi-segment, diverse collaboration between entities.
Yeah.
It's like being a translator of sorts or some sort of diplomat and broker to make unlike entities talk and communicate.
Yeah, we need more of that, is what I was thinking when you were saying that, you know, because that's maybe been something that has held healthcare back a little bit, but you've been very masterful in making that happen. Was your career, did you plan it ahead sort of the way it was, or was it more opportunistic, like opportunities came about and you're like, I could do something here?
I muddled through it. I wish I'd say, I'm sorry to say I don't have, maybe a little embarrassed to say I didn't have a plan, but no, I sort of muddled through it and opportunities came my way. I'm very fortunate to have great relationships in the industry, and they just sort of took me from one place to another. I've never really been out of a job for long, and really fortunate to have those sort of relationships and opportunities come my way.
Yeah, no, it's super fascinating. We spend a lot more time when we're together one-on-one, and definitely want to hear a lot more of the stories. So tell us, let's talk about HIE now. And you already mentioned, I don't know how you pronounce the acronym, but Serving Communities Health Information Organization. How do you say the acronym?
We call it SCIO.
SCIO. I like that. And I just love the thoughtfulness in the title, right? Serving Communities is very cool. Tell us a little bit about it.
So interestingly enough, SCIO was started in 1996. It's one of the oldest HIEs in the country, and it's the oldest HIE in California. And we had an IPA here in Santa Cruz County that had challenges communicating between its physicians. And also, by the way, Kennedy Castle bomb 1996, which was HIPAA,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
who would have thunk, right, in the second smallest county in California, that HIE was thought of, launched, and has sustained itself since that point in time. And as such, we connect the entire ecosystem in Santa Cruz County and have just about every single person in the HIE and share and support all those individuals and all those providers in Santa Cruz County. We changed our name for a variety of reasons, but more importantly, because of what's going on in California with our 1115 waiver, as well as our data exchange framework, which is this concerted effort now in California to exchange information statewide. So we thought it was more appropriate to be serving communities versus Santa Cruz.
Yeah. I just love the whole thinking and the strategy and the collaborative nature. And I think that's seems to be like this common thread throughout your career is your ability to do that. So you've been doing HIEs for a long time, and both have been successful. What is one thing that you think helps make for a successful HIE?
Well, however you define it, that addressed market of the HIE, that community, getting that community buy-in and support,
Yeah.
and take us and ownership.
Yeah.
As a rule, not HIEs are not for profits. And so a not for profit, given that it is just that, and ownership don't go hand in hand, but it really is generating that value of ownership of this not for profit called the Health Information Exchange. And as you might expect, most of the governance are your customers as well.
Yeah.
But really getting them to align, to forget their organizational
Yeah.
hats for a second and come together as a community, put the community first above and beyond their own organizations is absolutely key to success.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you've nailed it based on my experience as well. What are one or two challenges for HIEs? And then we'll flip it to sort of opportunities. But what are one or two challenges that HIEs in general struggle with?
So recognition of the value add.
Yeah.
As you know so well, Ed, information is a tough subject. It's nebulous. It's hard to get your arms around as to what is information, what's good information, what's complete information, where it comes from, the quality of that information. And so we're all part of that schema, and we add tremendous value to it.
Yeah.
But given the recognition of what we do, given that we have so many sources of information,
Yeah.
that is the biggest challenge is, oh, this is what the HIE contributed. Even our names on our screens, you got Edward, you go by Ed.
Right.
I've got Dan, I go by Daniel. But just reconciling names. And you and I are easy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're females. I mean, maiden name, married name, divorced name, hyphenated names, the whole variety of ethnic names.
Yeah.
So that's a tremendous contribution as just as a matter of example that an HIE really contributes to.
Yeah, that's good. And what maybe is one or two untapped opportunities? Maybe you all solved them where you are, but in general for HIEs.
It's such a great question. There's so many. We still don't have that complete picture of the individual yet, of the patient, of the member. And then that accurate depiction on the screen. We're not an EHR. We're not population health management. We're something that is, yes, all the above, but we need that very clear, concise summary that, depending on the user, can get to where they need to be in a matter of 3 clicks.
Yeah.
So we're still working and evolving how we best do this. And then given that our paradigm, our ecosystem becomes so much more complex, how do we govern it?
Yeah.
Right. Is it one governance? Is it federated multiple governances? Just how do we manage that ownership of data?
Yeah. Well,
Right.
Dan, some of the challenges that you spoke about, when you were saying that, I was thinking, yeah, I recognize that as definitely an HIE challenge, but it's also was a challenge for me as a hospital or health system CIO. Like I had the same problems, like try to identify who that person was Eddie, Edward, was that the same person, and how you make all that happen? What has there been any sort of tool or strategy you've used to be able to, identify more easily identify the people so that you can make sure you've got this more full picture?
Yeah, it's great. It's a great question. It's always a matter of perspective, right?
Yeah.
As a health system CIO, that was your perspective, but then we take it up to a little bit higher level to the community perspective.
Yeah.
And so versus, an enterprise master patient index, we think of it as a community master patient index.
Yeah.
And to the point, identity is just so important. It's sacred, right? It's
Yeah.
secure. Can we have, for healthcare purposes, just to be clear, for healthcare purposes, have a shared identity schema in our communities? I would advocate yes.
Yeah.
That's what we promote as part of our sort of health data utility strategy, utilizing the health data utility as a single source of truth for identity for healthcare workflow. And yes, we employ a very sophisticated master patient index from Verado. We have it shared within our community within reasons. There are rules to how we can make this shared in terms of licensing and the like, but we try to make that as available to everyone in the healthcare community so that we can, do the right thing by Danny or Daniel or Dan, right. Daniel J, what have you, and get that right person. That's the first step in interoperability.
Yeah.
But the second is consent. What has this individual given permission to share or not share? And we're about to get very complex with this in California because of female reproductive health. So got to get the individual identified correctly, need to figure out what permissions they've given to share.
Yeah, those are tough nuts to crack. But like I said, you all seem to be on the right track and have done so much already, and your whole career is so impressive. Again, I just think about the collaborative nature that you must bring to the table, because like you were describing, everyone's got their own sort of brand, or they're representing, and you have to let everyone be humble to lay down what they want, or all they want, and compromise and collaborate and that sort of thing. So hats off to you. Yeah, and on the whole identity thing, I never realized until I became CIO just what a challenge that was, because I didn't really think about it. Where I came up through the ranks, I didn't really have to think much about identity. But then when I became CIO, I realized, man, if I don't get the identity right, that's the foundation for everything that you're talking about, all the benefits that you're talking about, and that utopia of having one view of a particular patient in your community. So yeah. I want to switch now, Dan, to leadership, because everything that you are expressing really comes down to leadership. What are one or two things that you learned for success? So you've been in multiple companies, you're entrepreneurial, but maybe is there one or two things that crosses all of them in terms of great leadership attributes?
Yeah, a couple of things. I think most things can be boiled down to a couple of words, and I think in answer to your question, it's ownership and alignment.
Yeah.
You really got to get folks aligned with mission, vision, and values. I'm a big mission, vision, and values individual. Making sure your board of directors, your customers, your team, your employees are all aligned with your mission, vision, and values. And then take it to that next level. Once we get alignment, then we got to get people to own it. And I think ownership's a better word than accountability or responsibility or the like. I learned a lot about ownership while I was at SAIC. It was an employee-owned company. And at SAIC, we really meant employee-owned. You go back to the analog, when we were teenagers, then we used to drive our folks' car.
Yeah.
Maybe, we saved up our dollars, then we bought our folks' car, and it was our own.
Yeah.
And then we washed it, right?
we waxed it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And we took really good care of it. It was ours. So I always think back to that, and I think that just makes a huge difference in everything we do.
That cracks me up on multiple levels, because one, it's true, and I was that guy, and the two, the fact that that's the way we grew up, right? Our parents, they didn't give us a car,
right?
We bought the family car,
right?
And it became ours. Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. Dan, where do you go for inspiration? Because obviously, you're very passionate individual and very bright and strategic and visionary. Where do you get inspiration from?
Primarily quotes, YouTube. More than I go to YouTube as much as for anything now than any place else. And there's some great sources of inspiration on YouTube, whether it be managerial or personal or professional or health related.
Yeah.
So I go to YouTube a lot, and then you can always find it in a 2 minute segment
Yes.
or a 60-minute segment, depending on how much time you got that day.
And what about recharging your batteries? Like I see the great background there, and I imagine Santa Cruz is a pretty nifty place. What do you do to sort of rest and take care of yourself?
Primarily walk and get sunshine. I've become much more disciplined in getting outside every day and getting anywhere from 1.5 to 5 mile walks. And I
Wow.
used to be a runner. I can't do that anymore because of probably age and the like. But I try to get some sunshine and a walk in every day. In a perfect world, I get down to the beach and I'll walk the beach for a mile or two. So that really does help. I'll tell you what, I'm much more healthier in Santa Cruz than I have been anywhere else where I've lived. So it's working.
Yeah, that's a great thing to do is just get movement. And how far away is the beach from where you live?
Half a mile.
Oh my gosh, Dan, I'm so jealous. I wish I could be walking to the beach or the mountains, but instead I'm sort of in this flat area in the Dallas-Fort Worth region. Is there anything, Dan, that we missed or anything you want to double down on?
No, I think we just keep going at it, making the world a better place. I'm committed to driving towards whole person information.
Yeah,
So our colleagues and friends that provide the care can do whole person care. I just think that's so key.
yeah,
So I'm absolutely committed to continue to try and make that happen.
yeah.
Um,
That's
I'm not sure how much more runway I have in my career, but until I hit the end of that runway, I'm going to keep trying.
Yeah, no, I love it. And my only regret, I mean, I'm sitting here listening to you and watching you and learning, and I'm like, now I'm mad almost that we didn't connect earlier in our careers because you're a fascinating individual, a great leader, a compassionate man, and I really appreciate all the things that you've done for healthcare and for your communities. And I hope you keep going for longer because the world needs more people like Dan Chavez.
Thanks so much, Ed. It's been a pleasure catching up, and I'm sure we'll still have the opportunity to get together and make
Oh yeah,
something
it's absolutely going to happen now that I know where you live in Santa Cruz.
happen.
Okay, that wraps up EDTalks. I appreciate all of you listening and watching. And again, thank you to Dan Chavez for being on our show.